So, let's say Indonesia is starting to get involved in high-tech stuff, like jet fighters, industrial automation, or smart manufacturing. What's next? Well, to make the most of those opportunities, you need one thing above all else: people who are ready. You can't absorb advanced technology if you don't have a workforce that understands it. So education, real, practical education, is where it all begins. I'm talking about schools that teach coding, engineering, and data science, vocational schools that train technicians in mechatronics or digital manufacturing, universities that work directly with companies on research, not just hand out degrees. In short, Indonesia needs to build a talent pipeline. There are already signs of progress. The number of tech-focused startups is growing. More students are enrolling in science and engineering, and in places like Jakarta, Bandung, and Surabaya, we're seeing a wave of innovation. But more needs to be done, because without smart people who can use new tech, it doesn't matter how many machines you import or how many fancy systems you buy. They'll just sit there. Now let's talk about business. A real tech economy isn't just about foreign companies opening factories. It's about local companies, Indonesian companies, growing stronger. Here's the big question. Can Indonesia go from being just a market to being a maker? Can local firms become part of global supply chains, not just selling raw materials or basic goods, but making components, designing software, or even exporting finished tech? It's possible, but it takes effort. Government policy has to support small and medium-sized enterprises. There need to be incentives for innovation, tax breaks, funding for research and development, protection for intellectual property. And there's got to be cooperation. Universities, startups, big corporations, they all need to talk to each other. They need to build ecosystems, not just work alone. That's how real technology spillover happens. It's not magic, it's connections. Now, I said earlier that I wouldn't focus on comparisons, but just for a moment, let's glance at how some others did it. South Korea, for instance, used to be a poor country with no resources, but they invested heavily in education and copied foreign technology while building local industries. Now, they export everything from cars to semiconductors. Vietnam, more recently, has moved from low-cost garment factories to becoming a key electronics hub for companies like Samsung and Intel. Why mention this? Not to say, do it just like them, but to show it's possible. Indonesia doesn't need to become a copy of Korea or Vietnam, but it can learn from their strategies, especially when it comes to building tech capacity and growing competitive industries. Of course, I'm not saying to forget about tourism or natural resources. Those are still valuable. Nickel, for example, is essential for batteries. That's the future of energy. If Indonesia manages its nickel reserves wisely, it could become a global powerhouse in electric vehicles. But it needs to go beyond mining nickel. It needs to process it, refine it, and maybe even make the batteries here. The same goes for tourism. It shouldn't just be about crowds on the beach. What about ecotourism? Cultural tourism? Digital nomad hubs? These are higher value, more sustainable ways to keep tourism alive without overloading places like Bali. So yes, tourism and resources still have a place, but they should be part of a smarter strategy, not the whole strategy. We're living in a time of rapid global change. The world is moving toward green energy, digital services, AI, robotics, and automation. Supply chains are shifting. Big powers are competing not just with weapons or armies, but with semiconductors, satellites, and biotech. In this new world, countries that can innovate, those that build things, design things, and solve problems will lead. And those that rely only on selling what's under the ground or bringing in tourists, they'll fall behind. So the big question for Indonesia is this: what kind of economy do you want to be in 10 or 20 years?